Your Honors, I wish to respond to the major arguments raised by the government point by point. First, the government claims that, quote, only the most fundamental constitutional rights must be extended to unincorporated territories like the Philippines, unquote. Your Honors, by saying that fundamental constitutional rights apply to the Philippines, the government has in effect endorsed the claim of the petitioner that she is a citizen of the United States. For indeed, what can be more fundamental than the right to citizenship, which in the case of Truck versus Dawes has been considered by the court to be dearer than life or more important than the right to life? And if this honorable court agrees with the Supreme Court that the right to citizenship is dearer than life, then we do not have to go any further, because that simply means the right to citizenship automatically applied to the Philippines, thereby making the petitioner an American citizen at birth. Second, the government claims that a person must be born in a state to be a citizen. That is not correct. Washington, D.C. is not a state, but all persons born in that district are citizens of the United States. Also, a child of an American citizen remains an American citizen even if born in a foreign country. Moreover, in the slaughterhouse cases, the court ruled that a man can be a citizen of the United States without being a citizen of a state, unquote. Third, the government claims that the Philippines was not an incorporated territory. Your Honors, that is not correct. The Filipinos were made to pledge allegiance to one nation indivisible for 48 years. Now, why were the Filipinos made to pledge allegiance to one nation indivisible if the Philippines was not in reality incorporated into the United States? Fourth, the government claims that Congress had the authority to create and revoke the status of the petitioner as an American national. That is not correct. In Afroyim versus Rush, the court held that Congress has no authority to terminate the permanent allegiance of any person to the United States. If that is so, then Congress had no authority or power to reclassify the petitioner from being an American national to a mere alien, because the petitioner was required to render permanent allegiance to the United States for many years, and Congress had no authority to terminate that allegiance. Moreover, if Congress has no authority to automatically revoke the green cards of all aliens in America, how can Congress validly revoke the American nationality of the petitioner, which was armed with the whole range of civil and political rights under the Constitution? And how can that act of Congress be reconciled with the rule in Downs versus Bidwell, which limits the power of Congress over American dominions in favor of fundamental personal rights? Fifth, the government claims that the petitioner is only a citizen of the Philippines as a territory. That is not correct. While a territory can have inhabitants, only a sovereign power like the United States can have citizens. That is why those who applied for citizenship in the Philippines during the territorial period were made to pledge allegiance to the United States instead of swearing allegiance to the Philippines as a territory. Six, the government claims that Congress can create third-class citizens in unincorporated territories. That is not correct. If the 13th Amendment prohibits Congress from creating inferior classes of citizens in any place subject to American jurisdiction, Congress cannot bypass the 14th Amendment and create the status of American nationality in the guise of passing needful rules. Besides, if Congress has the plenary power to pass any rule in all American territories, what would prevent Congress from creating fourth-class citizens? And what would prevent Congress from allowing the practice of slavery in American Samoa? 7. The government claims it was always the intention of the American government to grant independence to the Philippine Islands. That is historically false. President McKinley said that, quote, our duty is to keep the islands permanently, end quote. And he performed that duty by killing 200,000 Filipinos who wanted to be free. 8. The government claims that the Filipinos lost their American nationality after they were granted independence. That is not correct. Independence is not one of the grounds for losing American citizenship. Your Honors, due to time constraints, I wish to close my oral arguments by bringing to the attention of this honorable court the highlights of the Filipinos' contribution to the United States of America, and that is that even as American nationals, even as third-class citizens. The Filipino people demonstrated a kind of allegiance unique in the annals of mankind. Impressed by their loyalty and devotion to America, General MacArthur has this to say, quote, "The story of the resistance of the people of the Philippines to the Japanese occupation of their land is a saga of unflagging loyalty to the United States and the American people, even in the most tragic hours of human history," unquote. In pursuit of America's manifest destiny, the Filipinos fought for America in 1,000 battlefields, particularly in Bataan and Corregidor. They fought for America in the forbidding jungles of Vietnam. They fought for America in the cold lands of Korea. And they bled for America in the bloody fields of Europe. In the process, they sacrificed more than 1 million lives for America's quest for freedom, greatness, and nay, even military supremacy. Thus, if America is great today, if the Americans are free today, a part of that greatness and a part of that freedom has been partly paid for by the blood, sweat, and tears of the Filipino people. Indeed, there is not a single state or territory in America or country in the world that can match the number of Filipinos who fought and died in defense of the American Empire in the battlefields of Asia. But what have the loyal Filipinos gotten in return for their outstanding allegiance to America? Your Honors, they were collectively divested of their American citizenship because, according to Senator Elihu Root, they are a cancer to the American society and should be treated as such. And today they are being persecuted and deported from this very country for its millions of their kind bravely fought, suffered, and willingly offered their lives. Worse, America's former enemies like the Japanese, the Germans, and the Italians are granted automatic visas, whereas the loyal Filipinos are not. Rather, they are neglected, forgotten, and driven into that dark, deepening shadows of supreme ingratitude. Simply put, America has rewarded its former enemies for their treachery and punished the Filipinos for their unflagging devotion and loyalty. With this, Your Honors, we pray that as we face the dawn of the third millennium, God shall grant this honorable court the humility, the wisdom, and the courage to return to the petitioner what she holds dearest and nearest to her soul, and that is her birthright as a citizen of the United States of America. For above all, what is on trial today is the capacity of our judicial system to oppose and reject Congress' creation of inferior classes of American citizens. What is on trial today is the courage of our judicial system to say that in this land of the free, every human being born under the American flag is a full-fledged citizen of the United States of America. Finally, what is on trial today is the humility of the judicial system of this country to admit that in reality, had the Filipinos been whites, had the Filipinos been Caucasians, the congressional genocide of a whole race of God's little brown people would not have had taken place at all. Your Honors, the petitioner has made a long and lonesome journey from the dark valleys of hell to this bright land of hope. It is my prayer that this honorable court shall grant that hope the freedom to grow and flower upon the altar of American justice. Thank you, Your Honors.